Twin Bill, where you can get your fill of hosts Jason and Marcus talking about movies and stuff. You know you never can get enough. A twin is two people who are related. Twin Bill. This season is Razzie Mania. Hello, and welcome back to Twin Bill, the podcast where
Sorry.
the twins look at the that's fine. Look at the bill and be like, "There's movies up there." Biatch. Okay.
Welcome to the madness.
A very appropriate phrase. And you got the right the Jack grizzle on your face too.
Well, not too bad because of March Madness, but
Oh yeah, different kinds of madness. All right. So as we discussed last week, The Shining came up on the Razzie Rolodex, and we did this for Friday the 13th, which in hindsight is kind of silly because Friday the 13th is a good movie, but it's not like an Oscar movie. The Shining is art. You can make an argument is one of the greatest movies of all time, if not number one. I'm not saying it's my number one, but argument. And it got nominated for Razzies.
it's certainly very influential in the horror genre at the least.
Yeah. So we decided we don't want to just talk about the Razzie traits of The Shining. So we looked for something that was bad and Shining-esque, and we sort of succeeded. We'll get into why I kind of like this movie, but we're talking about, confusingly, they're both called The Shining according to Wikipedia, but I'm going off of the initial advertising for clarity's sake. So the Kubrick film is called The Shining,
Yes,
and the miniseries is called Stephen King's The Shining.
which is appropriate because it's the only reason they made it is because of Stephen King's, I'll say it, vanity.
Yeah, he's like, oh, that Shining movie didn't show the beauty of my book. Look at this 4.5 hour thing.
Look at my sweet, sweet dialogue. They just keep talking and talking compared to that Kubrick movie, am I right?
Yep. And before we get into The Shining, let's briefly go into our weekend review. I know the Oscars wrapped up, so you're probably still in a little bit of a semi-Oscar crunch. What did you watch this week?
I'm relieved the Oscars are over because since we last recorded, I went to a pretty major Oscar crunch like you're talking about, and wrapped up all the narrative films I basically wanted to watch. 'Cause I didn't watch any docs. Docs can be good, so maybe I should watch a couple of them. I don't know, but anyways, I watched Sentimental Value, which was my last Best Picture nom I hadn't seen. Also nominated for Best Foreign Language. Spoiler alert for those who are recording the Oscars and haven't watched it, weirdos. It won Best Foreign Language. And I finished up Foreign Language with Surat, which is the most underrated movie of the year. Very beautiful, very, very depressing, but
Who's Surratt again? It's John Paul Surratt is the pointillist.
oh no, it's not spelled the same either. It's Sirat. It's a Spanish language drama about it's a bizarre plot. The father and son are looking for their missing daughter slash sister in the Moroccan desert, and they're this missing daughter that they think is lost in rave culture, so they're following raves. And so
That's interesting. Yeah.
they're in a road movie with ravers.
All right.
It is a lot of rave music, and I actually liked it a lot. Anyways, and then the last foreign language film I watched was The Voice of Hein Jarab, uh, which was Tunisian, but set in uh, like Israel and Palestine
Mm-hmm.
around the recent invasion. About it, Hein Jarab is a girl who's trapped in a war zone, and she, she calls 911 in the car she's trapped in, and it's from the point of view of the 911. Uh, it's called the Red Crescent, the 911 center in Palestine,
Hmm.
and the panic to try to get to her and keep her calm and doing and very realistic. You can actually learn about how trying to ambulances work in a war zone like that works. It's also very good. Um, uh, I think except for films, I don't know if watching the Oscars count. I just want to say that I think Conan did a good job. I actually think Jimmy Kimmel should have kept the job. He actually did make an appearance. I don't know if you ever will watch it.
I didn't watch it, but for my unrelated work, I don't want to talk about too much. For my for a company called Our National Conversation, I write a political humor column for them. So I read a political article about Conan saying that Kid Rock had an alternate Oscars at a Dave and Buster's, and that Jimmy Kimmel said that Melania Trump, or that Donald Trump was going to be upset that Melania wasn't nominated for Best Documentary. Yeah, yeah, pretty good late night type jokes.
Just want to stop. That was a very good year for Oscars. There were movies like Sarat that I think probably should have been nominated for Best Picture, but all 10 of the Best Picture films are good films. I would say F1 is the weakest, and that's actually a really well made sports drama.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good year for film in 2025.
Yeah, I'm a little behind. Well, I'm not up behind, but their taping schedules. I'm a little off kilter. I didn't really see a movie this week, so I'll briefly mention. No spoilers for you or anyone else, but Wonder Man is fine, and the Scrubs reboot is adequately Scrubs-like. Have you watched that yet?
No, I heard from our parents that it's also that's actually our mother said it was said exactly what you said, where it's very similar, which is a good thing to the original.
Yeah, it's kind of like it makes more sense than the infamous ninth season of Scrubs, or whatever that was, with the med school thing. But it's kind of similar, where to balance out the people who left the show because they're old, they put in some kids. Kids aren't as good as the main characters, blah blah blah. But yeah, yeah. All right, let's talk about The Shining. And The Shining, I'm seeing double, four Shinings. Okay, yeah, let's break it down. Okay, The Shining is directed by Stanley Kubrick. I'm starting out with some hot takes. Maybe the most ubiquitous auteur of the modern era. I don't think it's even debatable. You know,
Kubrick,
post French auteurs. I mean, yeah,
yeah, we're gonna get the whole thing what auteur means because Steven, like someone like Steven Spielberg has done it, has made some wonderful films, a
yeah.
bunch of them.
I don't consider Spielberg as stylistically tropey as Kubrick, but yeah,
Yeah,
fair
see,
enough.
this, God forbid you try to be entertaining, I think, because that you hold that against Spielberg.
Well, no, I'm not knocking Spielberg. It's just Kubrick's a little more artsy fartsy in a good way, but whatever. You're right. That is a debate for a different topic.
David Lynch,
Yeah, he's up there. John Waters, naturally. Yeah, yeah.
it's kind of a trashy version of that, but yeah.
I'm sure there's more that I'm not thinking of.
If I was prepared, I could have had a huge list, but
Even like fucking Joe Dante or something, or
oh my God.
no, he makes quintessentially Joe Dante movies. Anyway, okay, right. This podcast is going out of control. Um,
Influential horror, just want to throw out John Carpenter, give him a shout out because
oh yeah. Well, see, auteur is weird because technically Rob Zombie would be an auteur. His movies suck, but they're like the most. I like his music, but the Rob Zombie film is very unique. It's just not good. It's very distinct. Anyway, yeah. It's a fun
yeah.
topic. So Marcus, I was curious. What is your favorite Stanley Kubrick film that is not The Shining? Not that The Shining would have been your favorite film, but we're talking
I
about
thought of
today.
that because of fully caught up on what went wrong, and part of that, and part of binging that was going through their coverage of Kubrick movies. So I thought about that, and Doctor Strangelove probably comes in a close second
Good
to
one.
Full Metal Jacket. Kind of a
Okay.
controversial choice, I think.
Well, I have a controversial choice then because it's one of his most unsuccessful movies, but I love the lyrical nature and character study and weirdness of it. Barry Lyndon is probably my favorite.
Oh yeah, Berlin is way underrated. It's excellent too. Can't go wrong with anything you pick. Even The Killing, which
Yeah, it's
is more
more of a studio job. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
it's very similar to like these are all good Asphalt Jungle, which is also excellent. Those type of 50s noirs. Um,
Yeah.
but it's a wonderful plot in the killing. It's pretty much all good. Clockwork, I easily could have said Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
It's wonderfully the craziness, and that's pretty wonderful. I think well put together. So I said Full Metal Jacket, but I could talk myself 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's a little
Yeah.
boring on plot, but it's
It's just-
groundbreakingly beautifully made.
yeah, and it's got a science fiction edge that a lot of his movies don't have. But
A great classical music score, which is where I picked Full Metal Jacket because I actually like the rock pop music that he and maybe the composer helped him pick or whatever. But
yeah, yeah, lots of options. Yep. So for the context of The Shining, Barry Lyndon was his last movie. It was a 5 year gap between Barry and The Shining.
okay, Clockwork was before Barry, huh?
Yeah, I think 73 or something like that.
So he was actually working like a regular director before Barry.
Yeah, yeah. There was a bit of a gap where he was considering various projects before The Shining. But yeah. Uh, so Stephen King's The Shining was directed by Mick Garris. He's a fairly prolific TV writer. He worked on Amazing Stories, which I think is uneven a lot. I'm watching that show right now, actually. Uh, he also wrote Critters 2, which I hear is a good movie. I liked
He
Critters a lot.
also directed it too, I think.
Oh, I missed that. And he also directed an episode of Tales from the Crypt. That's the most important anecdote of this whole episode. It was actually because I watched it's my favorite show ever is Tales from the Crypt.
Uh-huh.
It was the episode is Rita Rudner is a comic book writer who has a horrible day, and she keeps going through the horrible day, outlaw Groundhog Day. And it's one of the best episodes of the show's almost over.
He getting into his Stephen King connection, which people who make Stephen King stuff make a lot of Stephen King stuff. I'm noticing Frank
Like Frank
Darabont.
Darabont's the famous one,
He directed his only feature he directed for a Stephen King thing was Sleepwalkers, which I don't know anything about. Oh, they're vampires.
That's probably why I didn't put it on my list. The same year as this, as The Shining, he did another TV movie where Stephen King wrote one story. We'll get into. Hold on, we'll get into that in a second. Let's talk about who wrote The Shining. So Stanley Kubrick is the main screenwriter on The Shining, which is not surprising. It's co-written with Diane Johnson, who Kubrick read a psychological horror novel about a woman being stalked. The novel's called The Shadow Knows. And he was so impressed that he hired her as his co-writer. Yep. And then
That makes sense. He co-wrote most of his movies, and that was actually he didn't usually use although Nabokov and uh what's James Clockwork Orange guy's name? Burgess.
yeah,
What's his first name? Anthony.
Anthony, yeah.
They actually get a co-writing credit because Kubrick uh rewrote the screenplays they submitted to him.
We're gonna get into it in a second, I think. Yes. To get into it right now. Well, actually, first, before I get into what you just said, briefly mention there's a movie in the early 2000s called The Divorce, based on a Diane Johnson novel about Kate Hudson as an American in France, directed by James Ivory of Merchant Ivory. There's your fun fact of the day. I was going to mention Stephen King submitted a full screenplay for The Shining 1980, but Stanley Kubrick read it and he's like, "This is too much like the novel. I don't want to do it." So he never officially accepted the screenplay, which is a little telling for the Stephen King's The Shining. And then another fun fact about the screenwriting process. This is interesting to me. So Stanley Kubrick thinks that when you die, that's it. So he refused to acknowledge the presence of ghosts. So he said he wouldn't make The Shining with any ghosts whatsoever.
Where So the bartender and the
I believe
and the,
the
and the old lady in the hotel, old lady slash young lady in the hotel aren't ghosts.
I believe they're supposed to be alcoholism induced specters of his mind.
I see, because they explain The Shining in detail in this miniseries.
Yeah,
It's
so
all
there
The Shining.
and in spoiler alert, there's a lot of ghosts explicitly in the TV movie.
Spoilers abound because no one should watch this thing. Just
I know
watch,
it's not
watch,
really
watch the
spoilers.
movie again.
It's just I mean it kind of sarcastically, like we're gonna talk about a lot of ghosts in 2 seconds, but yeah. So yeah, Stephen King's The Shining was written by Stephen King. That's why it's called Stephen King's The Shining. And he had like a million short stories that were adapted in the year 1997, and that's been the case until now. There are like 30 Stephen King projects in development now. And a little timeline for Stephen King: 1996, the movie Thinner came out. So if you're a big fan of the movie Thinner,
Also a TV movie, wasn't it?
no, that's a feature.
Okay.
And interesting thing about The Shining, the yeah, yeah, like I say, when I say The Shining is the original, no, I don't, whatever. But produced by Stanley Kubrick, no other credit. I guess he's high profile enough; he doesn't need a money man or whatever to be in charge. And then Stephen King's The Shining. Apparently, Wikipedia, because it's on television, they don't bother to list official producers because the network's the producer. So ABC is the producer, which we'll talk more about later on in this podcast. Let's talk about the music briefly. The score is by Wendy Carlos, who is a trans woman. I forget her male name or whatever you want to call it, but she actually scored Clockwork Orange while she was identifying as a man. You still there?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay. And then her only major credits other than The Shining are Clockwork Orange and Tron. Callback on this podcast.
Hmm.
Her collaborator on The Shining was Rachel Elkind. She didn't work on either of those two other major projects, so she's never really had any other major studio work, Miss Elkind. Although The Shining was directly lifted into Ready Player One and Tenacious D in The Pick of Destiny.
Yeah.
Yep,
Skadoosh.
exactly. And then Stephen King's The Shining was scored by a man named Nicholas Pike, who does not have a very illustrious career. He did do some score for Tales from the Crypt, like 10 episodes. It was kind of a lot, actually. And also the composer for the fine picture Blank Check.
And Captain Ron.
I didn't see that one.
And Rio too. Wow.
He's literally a hired gun. His scores are not memorable. I don't. Did you have any memories of the music in the TV movie? It must have been there because it's kind of
Pretty generic, tension filled. And then I actually wrote my notes in all caps because I was kind of angry, although angry is a bit strong. But I had feelings because one of my favorite classical pieces of music, and it's used in movies pretty regularly, is in the beginning of the movie when of the 1980 version when they're driving up the mountain to get to the hotel. It's
mm,
it's called Dies Irae from Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique. Boom, 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 boom,
oh yeah,
boom,
that's great.
boom, boom, boom. That thing. It's awesome. It's an awesome song. I never used, but it was actually in Sentimental Value this year's Oscars. But then they wanted to change the tone in this movie that everything's kind of funky dory, all funky dory, although they mentioned alcoholism and stuff before. So they play like happy music. It's like, God damn, it's just making me mad that you replaced one of the greatest classical songs of all time with generic
Yeah. Well, obviously,
happy
as we'll
music.
get into the big problem or difference, if you're a fan of it, of Stephen King's The Shining is quasi mega happy ending. So
Well, and that they're more nor that there's a Stephen King's. It's like a lot of books. You have more room to build characters, relationships. So Stephen King did this because the relationship between the family wasn't emphasized enough in the movie and Kubrick's movie.
right.
So gave a lot of backstory before they get to the hotel and why they love each other and everything. And I think it's to the 1980 film that Kubrick skips that.
Yeah. Let's break down the cast briefly. We're gonna have a whole section comparing the characters, so don't talk too much about the performances or how the characters looked. If you have any thoughts about the actors in general, but we'll just get through this real quick. Uh, so we have in the yeah Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance. I feel like Jack Nicholson's always been a little bit of a experimental, not traditional movie star. And 2 years before this, he directed and co-starred in a dark Western comedy with Mary Steenburgen called Going South. Looks very interesting, but also very unusual. Yeah.
There's very famous, faint, crazy people, and this is
It's like, yeah, the
typifies that
aside
most
from maybe
extreme.
the Joker, this might be the most iconic of his madness.
It's definitely those two.
And then we have in the second one, Steven Weber as Jack Torrance. And this was released the same year or season, or whatever you want to call it, that Wings ended.
Good for him. Was trying things.
Yeah. Not a terrible performance. We'll get into that in a bit, I guess. That was fine. Um, and then so we have Shelley Duvall as Wendy Torrance. She played Olive Oil in Popeye in the exact same year. Big year for Shelley D.
I always liked her, and it's unfortunate what was alleged about how Kubrick treated her on the set. But
Yeah, we'll mention that briefly near the end, but yeah. And then we have Rebecca De Mornay as Wendy Torrance, star of Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Were you familiar with Rebecca De Mornay at all before we've seen this?
I've never seen it all the way through, but I've seen bits of Risky Business. That's what she's most famous for. So I'm
Not that,
aware of her, right?
yeah.
I'm not surprised she didn't get bigger roles because some of her line readings this are pretty bad.
Yeah, she thought she was also okay, but I could see it's kind of a height
Fine, she's
artificial.
okay. It's not.
I know, but okay, I'm not saying it like that. She's kind of an artificially heightened character because she's always complaining. I thought she did an okay job. And then in the OG we have the Scatman Crothers as Dick Halloran. In the exact same year, he had a small part in the flop Clint Eastwood comedy Bronco Billy, which I have seen, and I thought was fine.
What is Scatman Crothers no otherwise than The Shining? Because
He was an actual jazz musician for a long time. I think that's how he got his foot in the door, and he did the Hong Kong Phooey cartoon right before this.
oh, that's him. Okay.
But yeah, he's always been sort of a character actor, old
Oh, he's
character.
in the Aristocats too.
He was most famous as an old man, so it's kind of hard to track. But, yeah. And speaking of
Oh,
old men, we also have Melvin Van Peebles as Dick Halloran. This is the craziest thing about this movie because I had no idea what Melvin Van Peebles looked like. I had not realized that the most famous director, arguably, of blaxploitation history was Dick Halloran in the remake.
it was strange because kind of goes against. I don't want to say that. I don't because I don't want to say that Melvin Peebles is a traitor to his cause because Melvin Peebles actually directed only one. I've never seen it. Actually, it's a type of plot that you and me would like, and it's an early 70s film where a white guy with a family goes to bed and he wakes up and he's a black guy
Yeah, sweet, sweet,
called Watermelon Man.
bad. Oh, because he also did the sweet, sweet back badass song, which is more of a
No,
traditional.
but Sweet Sweet Back song goes. He went. Watermelon Man got a lot of feedback from the studio when he was making it, and it didn't get that well reviewed. So He's a man of his word, so he said, "I'm never making a studio film again." And he never did. So
Seems like
everything was like independent, artistic, um, kind of label as black exploitation stuff.
yeah. And in the 90s, he was playing a lot of like cameos that referenced himself. Most famous to me in the Comedy Central classic Hebrew Hammer, he played a version of Sweet Sweetback.
Wow.
Yeah. And then in the 80s version, we have Danny Lloyd as Danny Doc Torrance. Did you know that they called him Doc in the original movie? I did not remember that.
I remember that either.
Maybe it's just a thing where they, because it was based on the novel, they had to put that in the Wikipedia article. I don't know, whatever. I have a trivia question for you, though. So, in 1982, Danny Lloyd played the young version of what controversial American figure in a TV movie?
Lenny Bruce.
The movie's called Will, the autobiography of G. Gordon Liddy. He played young G. Gordon Liddy.
Oh my God, was that a Pro G. Gordon Liddy film?
I didn't look into it. I imagine it's a little complicated. Like he was forced into it or something. I don't know. Whatever.
My God, what a horrible thing to be in.
And Danny Lloyd basically retired from acting, but Mike Flanagan got him to play a background character in Doctor Sleep, which we want to talk about on this podcast because I don't care.
Based on his profile picture Wikipedia page, he's doing like horror conventions and stuff. Good for him. Make that money.
Make the dollar bills. All right. And then in the modern version, there's technically, we'll get into why there's technically two Dannys, but for comparison's sake, Cortland Mead as young Danny Doc Torrance. Fun
In my
fact.
notes, I said this Cortland Mead character I said was uh cheaper version of Haley Joel Osment when you can't afford Haley Joel Osment.
He had like cartoonishly chubby cheeks, like he was playing a squirrel in a cartoon or something.
It's like his lips were up or something. It's like more gummy when he talked. I don't know. It was
Yeah, he was like if you made a kid in a factory for a Little Rascals or something. And fun fact about Cortland Mead, talking about making that money. Are you familiar with the ABC Saturday morning cartoon Recess?
yeah. Some people our age look back on it with such fondness. I never thought it was that funny or good. But yes, I've seen a few episodes.
Well, as a youngish adult, he played Gus Griswold, aka the blonde kid with nerd glasses. Like 150 episodes or something.
He'd be a good voice actor for nerdy kids. Yeah.
He's got a good voice. For a kid actor, he's fine. I guess we'll get into it. But and then the only main character who was in Stephen King's The Shining that is not technically in the 80s Shining is Will Horneff as Tony, who also I did not realize this. He is the same actor who plays Danny at his high school graduation.
Yes, because this whole thing's so supernatural. I don't know if it's confirmed, but I think because Tony is, like you say, an imaginary friend who tries to help uh Danny. I think there's a lot of magical things going on. Tony from the future, which was Danny in the future, helping Danny survive the hotel.
Yeah.
That's my interpretation.
No, I mean that's literally in hindsight, that's literally what it is. It doesn't make a ton of sense in a scene to scene.
And how is it just when he's sleeping in the future so he doesn't scare people in the present?
And why wouldn't Tony just say, "Hey, I'm you from the future, so I know what I'm talking about. Get the fuck out of the hotel." Like, he's got to be so weird about it.
Or it could all be in Danny's brain and he just somehow knows what it looks like in the future and he uses that to be the comforting person.
Yeah, I mean, I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
It was
They don't
weird.
confirm. King didn't confirm in the movie, at least maybe in the book. I don't read this book after this.
We'll get into the plot, I guess, but Danny like knows he has to leave the hotel at the end, so I don't. They didn't need Tony as a character anyway, other than the fact that it's in the book. But yeah, whatever. Let's talk about some other parts of the movie. I mean, whatever happens, happens, but we don't need to belabor the point that The Shining's much better artistically all the time. But if it comes up, it comes up. All right. Let's talk about the concept, which we shortened to the ad campaign. I don't know. Call the whole Stephen King's The Shining, or it's technically actually called The Shining. I think it's just needlessly sort of prevents the TV movie from having a lot of staying power because it's always compared to the original, but also it draws attention from the original. Maybe I don't know.
Well, Stephen King would love that and be like, "This is the one you're gonna see over and over again because I'm the master of horror and I did this one."
Well, yeah, Rebecca De Mornay and to an extent Steven Weber in interviews I saw on Wikipedia were like, "Oh, it's so much closer to the book. This is great." Like,
I wonder if Stephen King's books are. I don't. I never read a single one. I don't know if you've tried to read one.
Oh, I'm close. Well, technically, I read his book on writing, which is about the process of writing. But that's not a novel.
To his credit, he's a big proponent of young writers and stuff, and he's actually a very nice guy.
Yeah,
In terms of helping people and stuff. But his books are thousands of pages long, and that if you want to be true to one of his books, I think you do need to make a mini series instead of the Kubrick's movie was still 144 in the U.S. minutes. It's still long, but it's not long enough to probably cram all the dialogue, all the stuff in the book.
yeah. This movie is a great deterrent to me reading a Stephen King book. The mini series, obviously. So yeah, the posters. I honestly am not a huge fan of the Shining poster that's behind me right now with the weird alien face or whatever. Steven Weber's face is just hilarious. I'll show that poster in a second, but that poster's horrible.
Yeah,
Horrible. What do you think of the Shining face? The yellow one behind me.
I I, I don't get it. It would really have to be explained to me what. And directors usually don't make posters, so I don't think Kubrick made that. So I don't.
Knowing Kubrick, he'd be the most likely. He made the trailer, which we'll talk about right now. Uh, yeah, sure, why not? Because Stanley Kubrick directed the trailer and edited it himself. It's just they do the titles. It's like this movie's coming out. It's got cast members in it, and then the elevator opens and the blood comes out. It's like one of the greatest trailers, iconic trailers of all times. And then
I apologize. I just being honest here, I didn't get to watch it because how much time I had to
oh,
devote to watching the miniseries.
well, you can check it out. I sent it to you, but and then I don't recommend the trailer for the miniseries. It may have been a DVD release trailer, but it was just like cuts of scenes from the miniseries, tried to be scary, and then the silliest part at the end was like it'd be a scene, and then it'd be like S scene, and then scene H, and just spell out the letters shining in blue letters, like cutting with the scenes. It just seemed needlessly oh, talking a series, but needlessly silly edit, so forgettable. But Kubrick's trailer is great. You should watch it.
So
And then,
just according to the internet, there's a long article. Never mind. It's a WordPress article. Never mind. I'm not gonna read that. But apparently, in the poster behind you, that it's the face in the Kubrick movie that they make when they do The Shining. Both Scatman Crothers and Danny.
yeah, I guess yeah, that makes sense. So
There could be a
uh
guy named Saul Bass did the poster. He did a lot of movie posters.
yeah, he's the guy who did the a lot of Hitchcock title sequences and stuff. But yeah, yeah. All right, let's briefly talk about the taglines. I'm not a big fan of the Kubrick tagline either. It's a masterpiece of modern horror. true,
Yes,
but it's not like exciting.
that sounds like more of a, especially in these trailers from this time, 1980 or whatever. It's like just a line you put up in the bold font in the trailer. Not really, it shouldn't be the tagline.
And then Google said this was one tagline. I think it's three separate taglines. 110 empty hotel rooms filled with horror. Iconic terror from the number one best-selling writer. And then some guests never leave.
Those are all for the miniseries.
Yeah. The ad campaign is just so desperate. It's like, this is scary like the 1981 too. Yeah.
This room service is terrifying. I don't
This room service is murder.
you want red rum on in your room service? I don't.
All right, let's see if we can squeeze in the trivia break. So, Stephen King's The Shining came out at the tail end of the 1996-1997 television season for ABC. So, every question is about shows that were on ABC in 1996 to 1997. First question. The big hit for ABC on Sunday primetime was what DC Comics live action adaptation?
Is that The Adventures of Lois and Clark?
Technically, Lois and Clark, The Adventures of Superman, but I'll give it to you. And then Second Noah seems like an insufferable primetime drama about an author who loves adopting lots of stray animals. He's like a second Noah, but not. Anyway, the show Second Noah was the early big role for what actor who would go on to play Cyclops in X-Men films?
James Marsden?
Yes, he played a child on Second Noah.
Wow, second no.
All right, let's do character breakdown comparison of characters in the 1980 versus comparisons versus now. So Jack Torrance versus Jack Torrance. I feel like the Nicholson version is a little more. There's a theme with the thing. He kind of keeps to himself and goes crazy. Steven Weber's like normal and trying, goes to AA and
Yeah, I'm kind of hinting at this. There's a big difference between the miniseries and the movie. And I think why I put Kubrick so high among filmmakers is his willingness in most of his films, I would say, that to do you don't really know what's going on, um, which I think can be a good thing in a film narrative. Some people, it's a fair thought that you need things to make sense and uh, conflicts or whatever that you see in the film. You learn what's happening and there aren't mysteries, but Nicholson's performance is given more room for interpretation, which, like I'm saying, is a good thing. Whereas I imagine Steven Weber had a hard time because it's so much dialogue, um, and he has to express the change and kind of explain it. Almost don't want to call it exposition, but it kind of feels that way.
Wendy Torrance versus Wendy Torrance. So this might be our most controversial divergence here, but I don't think it's perfect in the TV movie, but I liked the option in theory of having a Wendy who's more vocal, a little more stronger willed, a little more protective of Danny. That was probably my favorite part. Was honestly was her. Yeah,
It's kind of hard. Just go back to Jack for a second because it was hard to compare the two Jacks because they're being asked to do different things. Um, in the Kubrick movie, it's the son of a madman and kind of what's happening around them as a result. Um, so much melodrama in the miniseries,
yeah.
family melodrama.
Mm-hmm.
So as a result, the Morny needs to talk more. I guess gonna stick to what I said, but I think she's fine at times. Um, she plays horrified role when she's getting uh hit with a mallet and at the end and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think I give it to Shelley. She's more emotive with like her screaming and stuff. Uh, more expressive of the shock that would be expected situation. Uh, I think she was better cast for that movie, and she did a better performance. So I give the edge to
Yeah.
Shelley.
Since you mentioned it, I'll briefly mention I do agree that the genres are incredibly divergent. The original movie is more or less a slasher horror movie, but it does have elements to me at least of not just psychological horror, but psychological realism or psychological analysis, dream theory or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, yeah. And while the TV movie is more like a drama, like
Yes.
like a it kind of reminded me of like ER, just in the sense of like even lighting and talking through issues and stuff. But yeah, yeah, no, ER is a weird comparison, but in general, just that sort of like talking in the room about things. Yeah, yeah. So next comparison, we got young Danny Torrance versus young Danny Torrance. The only thing I want to say about this, because I mean, kid actors is kind of weird. Well, two things about the TV movie. One, they make that kid talk so much for a random child actor. And number two, the first movie, you kind of like get hints that Jack Nicholson has been abusive to him. You know, like if you know the novel and you know the thing. In the movie, they show him with his arm broken. They show him hitting his head on the toilet. They show him like it's kind of almost a trigger warning in the TV movie. Like this kid is gonna get fucked up.
Yeah, I kind of ruined this game because it's the screenwriter for the miniseries slash TV movie, whatever you want to call it. Just I guess the screenwriter was Stephen King. Just it's way too explainy, way too explainy.
No, I agree.
You're right. It's a kid they established is 7 years old. Minimum age for there should be that much exposition movies to begin with. Exposition, uh, it can be cool sometimes the way you explain certain things. It just depends how it's written. But I don't like it in general, and I don't think characters who are I don't know what the minimum age should be for exposition, but it definitely should be higher than 7. This kid voice like The Shining. Oh, tell The Shining too.
Daddy, you gotta
I
leave.
know,
You
I
gotta,
know Dad was drinking. He got alcohol somehow.
Daddy, you don't understand the Overlook. It's haunted.
You forgot to dump the boiler, Daddy. Uh,
The one thing I'll give credit for the kid actors is more of a director thing, but when he opens that door and it's like black and he falls and he starts
yes.
spinning, that was cool. Like,
Good time I know. That was an incredibly cool looking thing. It's such a quick thing. Um, yes, that I give. I don't know if you're going to talk about this, but I give. It's not. It's better in the feature film in 1980 because it's a feature film that cost millions and millions of dollars to make. But the effect people did a really good job in the miniseries TV movie.
yeah, to an extent, I thought some of
For
the
what it
makeup
is,
the makeup was bad. Okay, but yeah, we'll get a little bit in a second when we talk about Ghost and stuff. But and Jack's, we didn't talk about okay,
I just
we
couldn't get
didn't
to the
talk.
original question.
Yeah,
Kind of like Shelley Duvall, I think the emotive of Danny, what's his face, the retired kid actor in the 1980 movie, is better than what they asked Cortland Mead to do in the 1997 night
I
one.
agree. It's not like Danny Lloyd's a great actor or anything, but and that's the famous story about the original movie is that uh Stanley Kubrick didn't tell Danny Lloyd what the plot was and tried to make it more of a fun movie for him, and he succeeded. And I think you kind of get that where it's like you get more nuance and less is more with kid actors, especially. So it's like, yeah,
It's actually clever, and it's again Stephen King's fault because I think Kubrick was better at using Danny going red round, red round. That was better than just Danny seeing it on the wall.
right.
And
Yep. So we're going to talk about that in a second. So I'm going to kick off a little bit there. Let's talk about Dick Halloran versus Dick Halloran. This is the only time I'm really hard on the acting because I love me some Melvin Van Peebles. I love the blaxploitation films. His performance as Dick Halloran was insane. It was like a kind of stutter or he's mumbling. It was almost unwatchable. It's like kind of like he had like a mental health disorder or something.
I don't know, you're giving Scatman Crothers too much credit. He wasn't like
But he talked. He
Laurence
talked.
Olivier.
He talked in a normal. He talked in a normal adult voice. Melvin Peebles
Got
was like
shining, boy. It's like his
Melvin.
only line.
I know, but Melvin Peebles was like, "Oh, you gotta shine. You gotta stay in a hotel. You gotta shine it." It's like this weird corruption of his voice. It was weird.
You know, if I can look it up. I don't know if Belmont Appeals from like South or something. I don't know. He has like a well, that's kind of what Scatman Crothers is too, but there's a less again back to kind of a less is more is better from the Kubrick version.
So I do agree that Scatman Crothers is not a good actor. He doesn't like elevate the character or the movie with his presence. He's like fine, but it's just like again, less is more. It's so much easy. Yeah, yeah. It's
Belmont Appeals is from the Midwest. He's born in Chicago, so
probably just old. Or Mick Garris or Stephen King was like, you gotta talk like you're a simpleton because you relate to the boy. I don't know. I don't know.
I thought their performance is very similar, and I actually think Melvin Peoples. I like Melvin Peoples in the restaurant in Florida and everything. I think it's weird that the writer that Stephen King had it where The Shining hurts him.
Yeah, I mean, it
Trying
makes
to blow up my
sense.
head off, son.
It's not a positive thing to have psychic powers in the movie, so it made sense to me. But yeah, whatever.
I give the edge to Melvin over Scatman. Just saying.
Wow, I do not agree, but I'm biased because I like old movies, I guess. And then
Scatman doesn't get anything to do.
okay, I get it. I get it. Small part, which is a good thing. Uh, our next comparison. This is a weird one. So in the '80s movie, Stuart Ullman is the name of the guy who sits at the table and explains the thing. Stephen King version gives us basically two Stuart Ullman characters. There's Stuart Ullman, which is played very hammily by what's his name? I'm thinking
Is this Elliot Gould?
yes. And then Pete Watson, who's like the handyman version of Stuart Ullman, but does the same thing basically, played by Pat Hingle. I found it very. I don't like Elliot Gould as an actor that much to begin with. This movie, he really laid it on thick.
Oh my God. Young, well, relatively young, Elliot Gould is, I don't want to say the greatest thing ever, but
He's
his
not the
Altman
greatest thing ever.
performances, he's great in the Altman movies that he's in.
Okay, so
You
he
don't
gets
like The Long Goodbye? You've seen that, right?
Long Goodbye is not my favorite Altman, but that's a longer discussion for a longer goodbye. It's fine,
He's incredible in that, and he's great in MASH, the MASH movie too.
fine. But non Altman, he's horrible.
He's definitely horrible in this. Okay, so yes, I'm kind of skipping the point. He has a upper crust, almost British way of talking. You're a drunk, so you know I was against hiring you, right?
It's a micro part in the 1980 movie, but whatever that guy's random guy's name is who plays flat top blonde guy in the 1980 movie, he does a really good job of just being like, this is a weird job, and he just gets in and gets out. Again, smaller screen time equals positive.
Right, and like again, I'm gonna say this probably like 50 more times on this episode. Kubrick wisely chose and I guess give Diane Johnson credit too, a less is more approach to the writing here. So it's again, you just who needs to know the caretaker, not about the caretaker, but the TV movie miniseries, whatever. They so much about how great this hotel is, and someone like you could ruin it.
Yeah,
We've done
I
so
might.
many great things here. We invented stupid, what was it? Spanish croquet. That's not it.
Yeah, there was a special croquet that the dad never taught the son before he died, but then the croquet mallet came back in a big way. But yeah, yeah.
And the ball was utilized too. Balls.
But I want to briefly mention the same thing. Pat Hingle, he's really good in small doses and like what's it, Brewster's Millions or Batman, but he gave him a lot of dialogue at the it was the first scene in the freaking movie.
Yeah, it's a very Pat Hingle role. I'm fine with it. Nothing that remarkable, but
I didn't think it was, yeah, like his delivery was good. The character itself was not very useful to make it like a dramatic plot thing, but yeah.
well, it's a 4 hour, 30 minute thing or whatever.
Yes.
So buff it with a few more characters.
Yep. And then next comparison, this is a weird one. Delbert Grady versus Delbert Grady, the probably a murderer in his past slash butler bartender dude. Not really bartender because they're a different character for the bartender, but
Uh, oh, big edge to
The Shining original.
yes, something
Oh
Stone.
man, because he's not in much
Philip Stone.
he's not in a lot of the Stephen King The Shining, but he just won't stop talking. He's like, Jack, there's your son's upstairs. You gotta go upstairs and murder your child, okay? Like it's
You're
just
talking
like,
about the miniseries now, right?
yes, he
Work on
just
your transitions.
I know. Same title, blah blah blah, but just talks incessantly about the plot for like the last 30 minutes of the movie.
Again, that's Stephen King screenwriting, but yes, it does hamper the character.
Yeah, it was very mysterious in the 1980 movie because he's might
There's
be a
a
ghost or projection of Jack Nicholson's brain or whatever. Yeah.
Philip Stone is along with the guy you're probably to get to next. Um, one of
What?
oh, because wait, what's the difference between Philip Stone and what Delbert Grady and Lloyd?
Lloyd's the bartender.
So what does Delbert Grady do
Delbert
in the
Grady, like
hotel?
okay, in the movie, he opens the meat locker and he acts like a butler.
Okay,
In the Stephen King version, he's in the ball. There's way more characters in the ballroom. They don't even show the ballroom that much in the original movie, but
so he's basically like an employee of the hotel.
yeah, he's kind of like also kind of a valet butler in the Stephen King version. But yeah, yeah.
Okay, just want to give credit to Philip Stone because he's great in the he's at least three Kubrick movies, Barry Lyndon and Clockwork Orange as well. Um, he has an austerity to him in all of his performances. Excellent character actor in those.
All right. Now we get the more open-ended comparisons of characters, but real quick, Tony as Danny Lloyd's finger, or Tony as the ghost friend, Danny as an adult. I mean, Stephen King give him some credit. It was a little more fleshed out than Danny Lloyd doing this in one scene, like one or two scenes. But
I'm never gonna pick a finger over an actor. And I actually like the twist at the end of the miniseries to reveal that Tony actually was a guy in the universe. Because otherwise it's just like, okay, why is this boy thinking of this
yeah,
20 something in glasses?
my only complaint about the plot twist was that the actor wasn't super great, and he looked sort of mealy to be like this little kid being like, Danny, I know better. Don't do that. It just seemed kind of random. Like I guess
But as an
it's
actor yourself, don't you're gonna pick a finger over an actor?
no. I like I said, as a plot point, it's interesting, but the character and the acting of Tony was insufferable. Bad actor. Bad. And then kind of more ephemeral question, but the depictions of the ballroom scene from the 20s in 1980 versus depictions of the ballroom scene in the 20s in the Stephen King. Obviously, a lot more visceral and literal in the Stephen King version. Fun fact, Frank Darabont and much less famous people who've worked with Stephen King before are in the ballroom.
I
And
actually spotted him because I while I was watching the miniseries, I was browsing through the Wikipedia page a little bit, and he's there's a bald guy. I could point him out if we watch this again, which we never will. But
Yeah,
and then did you recognize the conductor in the ballroom?
no.
That was Stephen King in makeup and a mustache.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't recognize that. But well, while we're on the topic, because I did not make a note of this, there is a Sam Raimi cameo. It's one of his worst acting performances of his cameos I've ever seen. The mechanic who gives Dick Halloran the snowmobile.
I don't like hearing Sam Raimi. Well, actually, I get enjoyment out of hearing Sam Raimi talk because when he actually talks about his films and stuff because he's very excited and he's kind of a nerd, but he doesn't really have a great voice for film.
I mean, I think his natural speaking voice is good. He could play himself in a movie.
I liked it. Just mainly because he's there and he's one of
Yeah,
my favorite filmmakers.
it wasn't as good as like what's a good movie that he's in? He's in one of the Coen Brothers movies.
He
What?
in Hudsucker Proxy, um, there's a montage of people discussing the hula hoop,
Yeah,
and there's a in the office there's a guy in shadow praising it or something. That's Sam Raimi. But it's him in shadow, so you can't see his face.
I feel like it was Miller's Crossing or one of those types of movies. He got shot or something.
Maybe a lot of people got shot in that. And it's been a while since I've only seen it once, and it was a while ago.
Yeah, yeah, whatever. So he's in it. He's fine. Uh, so no, I liked the subtlety of the picture at the end of 1980 movie and not having to show the ballroom scene and give Dilbert Grady monologues and all that shit. I mean,
And
so
the Wikipedia says she's a Rita Hayworth lookalike, hit on and then slap uh, Steven Weber. Um,
yeah, she didn't look like that much like Rita Hayworth to me, but I guess they're gonna get kind of finicky with beautiful women from the old
she's
time.
a redhead dressed in classic Hollywood garb. Therefore, she's a Rita Hayworth lookalike.
The way you said it could be Lucille Ball.
Meh. I'll never look like Rita Hayworth.
That
Meh.
that would have been much better movie. Yes. So yeah, like the theme of this movie, Kubrick was very subtle, and it's effective because your brain thinks of things about the ballroom. Stephen King gets sick of the ballroom because it feels like it goes on for a fucking hour. But, yeah. And then finally, the various ghosts slash mental specters that you see in the Overlook Hotel in both movies. In the original movie, you have the famous twins in the hallway and the guy in the bear costume giving a implied blowjob to an old man. Both movies have the gross lady.
Oh, there's a bear. There's a bear in the original.
Yeah, there's it's a famous meme. It's like this old guy sitting on a bed, and then a bear comes in the. It's like it's like a yellow mask with bear hair around. Yeah, it's a quick shot, but yeah.
I guess it's more of a wolf in the miniseries or wolf head.
Maybe it was supposed to be a wolf, but then Kubrick changed it because of the optics or whatever. I don't know. Kubrick is very finicky about swapping
I
props.
literally thought the first time the wolf guy appeared in the miniseries, I thought he might have been the dad trying to be silly. I guess at that point he was deranged. He wouldn't have been silly, but he said, "I'm
Yeah.
gonna eat you from toe to head," and it's like that's something nursery rhyme character says. It's not. It's supposed to be scary.
Well, obviously, there's a mix of like children's themes and horror, like the topiary monsters.
Anyways, I actually think that I give me serious credit because it's actually really good makeup on the you don't win an Emmy for makeup this
Well,
miniseries
yeah,
does.
I will go over the awards at the end, but yeah, that is one of them. Yeah,
The lady in the bath had really good makeup when she turns into a demon.
I mean, the original also had amazing makeup for the lady who turned into a monster. Like,
Yes, and again, like I promised, Kubrick is less is more, so the ghosts have more effect because they're not in as much and talking again with Stephen King with too much dialogue slash exposition. It's just
yeah,
beats you over the head with it.
Stephen King loves characters who are like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you." That's his
The
thing.
reason I'm scary is that in my past life, I was beaten up by my father, or I don't know, shit like I don't know what says in the movie, but you know what I mean, that type of dialogue.
Speaking of dialogue, I think you basically said it. The
A few
Shining,
times so
the
far.
Shining, the Shining is like historically, especially for a mainstream American movie, very sparse in its dialogue. There's a lot of silence and reactions and stuff. And then, as we talked about, uh, God, it's like just constant group therapy between the three family members. And then they literally go to AA in the second episode. And Steven Weber calls his son Doc like 6,000 times to establish character. A lot more talking.
Yep. Uh, Steven Weber, I wrote my notes, get Shakespearean almost in a way. It's,
I guess it's
he
just
says something like, I missed the line completely, but he says like, you are not of, when he's threatening Danny at the end, and eventually lets him go, but he says something about, you are not of managerial stock.
yeah. I think he was trying. Yeah, I don't know if I was trying to ape. Uh, what's his name? Ol- Olgard, the guy from the hotel. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. So let's talk
Yeah,
about.
we can just, I've already talked about that already, so we can move on.
Yeah. Let's talk about the plot stuff. So the first image of the movie in The Shining, it's I believe Jack and family driving over the Colorado mountains.
With
Yeah. And then weirdly, it's the weirdest first shot I think we've ever done this podcast. It's Jack and Pat Hingle having a prolonged conversation about how the Overlook Hotel works.
Yeah, it is foreshadowing that the boiler plays a key part, and it's the first thing you see, I
That's what
guess.
that's the thing. When I was watching the movie, I just got bored and didn't listen to that because I don't who cares. But yeah. And then so the protagonist of the movie, I think it's kind of interesting because the protagonist of The Shining is mostly Jack, with hints of Wendy and Danny running away, while the miniseries goes to great lengths to be like, oh, Jack, Wendy, and Danny are like all protagonists, man.
And they spell out that the ghosts in the hotel want Danny in the miniseries.
Yeah, and like I
It's
mentioned,
his shining power. I
at
think
least there
it's
are. Okay,
they
yeah.
combine their shining power because the hotel, which they didn't explain in the Kubrick movie, which again, who needs to know this? The hotel has the shining boy, and
You got the Shan Hotel,
hotel shine plus Danny shine equals shine, which is the best kind of shine. Um,
Shine on Sports.
so in
Yes.
that way, I think that you could argue the miniseries makes Danny more of a character. Uh,
Oh,
'Cause
definitely. He has
he
dialogue in the. He doesn't have dialogue in the movie, really.
he has the he has the most power immediately from the beginning to ignore the ghosts and not get ruined by them. Uh,
Right.
the ghosts kind of leave the Mornay alone.
Yeah,
Uh,
the ghosts want Danny, and they want to use Jack as the spigot of evil or whatever to kill Danny or
just
whatever.
bad ghost strategy. Then you go back to Ghost College. Why not
But
have the ghosts also court Wendy
because
so
Wendy's
that
not an evil
they,
alcoholic with a bad dad or whatever.
so you have to be an alcoholic to get seduced by the ghosts?
You have to be what's the word? Susceptible to evil,
Not pure of heart, I guess.
which to discredit Stephen King, that's not really a character for Wendy. That she's a good person who is immune to the thing. That's not character. That's not a character arc. This is not. Well, yeah, we'll get into that, I guess. Um, So yeah, the ordinary world of the protagonist. Kubrick does not dwell on things, but you kind of get the hint that he's an alcoholic and a non-writer who's trying to write his first thing while being a caretaker. And then it's the same thing in the miniseries, more or less. They just go to great lengths to be like, he's in AA. He wasn't in AA before, and he hurt his
He
son.
lost his teaching job because they show the flashback where asshole kid stabs his tire and he punches him. And then I'm not saying he should have been fired, but that kid was truly an asshole for puncturing his tire.
Yep. And then there's all kinds of sub backstory in the like
So the setup is the same, which you told me offline that, and I agree that in a lot of ways these two are very similar. So like, again, it points to why the point. What's the point of making a remake? But
yeah, I think yeah, I mean, well, it's the ending that I think is really the like linchpin of the which we'll get to. Okay, but and then what else is going on? Oh, what does the protagonist need to improve to get better in their life? The Kubrick movie doesn't really. I mean, you sort of imply like, oh, he should probably do a good job at this caretaker job, but it's not like that's not clear. But the miniseries is very clear. He's got to stick with this AA thing and not abuse Danny. Danny needs to stop. Danny needs to grow and stop being abused. Makes it a lot more clear. I would argue there isn't an implied path to redemption in the Kubrick movie.
yes, well, it's stated clearly.
Right?
Uh,
Because Jack Nicholson's not he's an alcoholic who can't write or whatever, but they don't. He's not like upset about it at the beginning, so it's like yeah.
I actually thought, I guess he probably is alcoholic uh, in the 1980 movie too, but I thought it was like the Simpsons episode where that he's a guy who enjoys alcohol and it just happens to be that the hotel has no alcohol.
It's interesting. I guess it's like Kubrick likes to leave things open to interpretation. I thought it was, which we'll get to, the drink from Lloyd is the same thing in the miniseries that set off his alcoholism, but it could just be it set off his propensity to go crazy or whatever. But all right, time for another trivia break. So, crown jewel of Mondays on ABC in 1997 was, of course, Monday Night Football. Who was the Super Bowl MVP of Super Bowl 31, the championship of the 1996-97 season?
Is it Super Bowl MVP?
Who was Super Bowl MVP in spring 1997 slash Super Bowl 31?
Is that Brett Favre?
It was what teammate actually won Super Bowl MVP that year?
Oh, fuck. That's right. It's Desmond Howard.
Yes, a famous kick return for a touchdown. Monday was another day and yet another failed drama. Dangerous Minds was an attempt to turn the Michelle Pfeiffer urban drama into a TV show starring what former Janine Melnitz as the teacher who turns her chair around before sitting on it?
Janine Melnitz.
Mm-hmm.
Janine. Wait. Fuck, I should know this. That name sounds familiar.
Yep.
Tiffany Amber Thiessen?
Janine Melnitz was the secretary in Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2.
Amy Potts?
Yes.
Wow, she played a turning the inner city kids around as a substitute teacher
Yep.
or whatever,
And that's basically it. I think it was a regular teacher, not a substitute teacher, but yeah.
turning around with her with sarcastic wisecracks.
Yeah. Come on, kids, do your homework. Meh. Lucille Ball again. Okay.
Of, of course, because you have potential to be an A student.
Meh, meh. Laugh track. Okay. Uh, so what event in the movie sucks the main characters into the story? Uh, Kubrick's The Shining, like typical, is very open-ended, but according to Wikipedia and my belief, uh, he meets Lloyd, the maybe ghost bartender in the bar, and gets a drink. And I think that fully triggers his psychosis that eventually leads to the events of the movie. And then Stephen King's The Shining just sort of puts a lot of stuff in the middle before the drink. Like he reads the files about the flapper party and goes insane. And then Miguel Ferrer cameo as his dad talking to him. So he just sort of just like gradually crazy, and then he gets the drink and goes full murderer at the very end.
I did not
So
know it was Miguel Ferrer on the radio.
yeah,
Excellent, excellent voice for a mean ghost of a mean dad audio.
Yeah, that was weird in the movie. I mean, it makes sense if I guess since Jack was going crazy, but he smashed the PA system, and then he's like, "Oh, Danny smashed the PA system," and then Wendy didn't get mad at Danny.
In the 1980 movie with the radio, does Jack just uh does Jack even mess with it, or does it just go out on its own?
I think it just went. I don't because I only remember the Simpsons version where it was like Chief Wiggum hears over, and he's like, "Oh, it's over." Okay, but I don't.
To go back to the original question about when the plot sucks in, uh, and doing some reading while you were talking, I think the thing that drives Jack to madness in both versions is when Danny goes to room was it 217?
I think it's
And
they changed it in the. I thought it was 237 in the movie.
why did they change it? Well, whatever. I guess because
Whatever.
Stephen King hates Kubrick. But and when Danny runs down the stairs like, "Mommy, Daddy, that room was so terrible," blah blah blah. That in both versions, he's got bruises like he was assaulted. And then logically, the wives in both versions were like, "Jack, why did you beat up Danny?" He's like, and the Jack's like, "What? I didn't do it. God damn it! Why does everyone think I beat kids?" And then the ghosts are like, "They hate you. They make things up about you. Ooh, you need to kill them."
No, but I don't remember that in the old movie. But and then question that's always hard with these dramatic movies. But what is the fun and games of the movies? The original, I think, is pretty clear. It's Jack going mad and doing slasher things like smashing the door in and saying, "Here's Johnny." I think the miniseries tries to hedge their bets a little more, make it dramatic, like a drama. Like, can Jack overcome his madness? Will Danny survive? The TV show tries to hedge its bets a little more with the Jack going crazy, fun and games.
Yeah, I agree that the Kubrick's better, but it's in both. It's basically as Jack kind of gets seduced by the hotel, which in both he does. In Stephen King's version, Jack powers through to help a bit at the end. Yeah, and then it's from there on, it's the bigger, stronger person is the psycho killer, and the wife and the son, can they survive? And he's
Yeah.
trapped in snowy conditions, and yeah, when no one around, blah blah blah.
So in the plot structure, it'd be like, what obstacle takes away the quote unquote fun and games and causes the dark night of the soul? I think uh well, in the movie, it's a lot clearer. The protagonist basically switches. Wendy and Danny are trying not to die, and they're running away. That's sort of the moment when that happens. In the TV movie, it's weird because you just sort of see all three characters the same amount of screen time, even though Jack's trying to kill them. So it's a little more like open ended, and I guess it's like Jack taking the drink is kind of the protagonist joy changing to evil. I don't know.
Uh, yeah, and again, obviously, when we get to our reviews, we're gonna see which one's a lot better. But horror movies are and should be the simplest genre of film,
Yeah, well, the second one's not a horror movie; it's a psychological drama.
right? I'm just saying that you could argue that in the plot simpler, which I agree, and to its benefit, uh, it's just like you're saying, running away and surviving is that's it. And just
And the TV movie tries to do that to an extent because it's like Wendy and Danny know they have to leave, and Dick Halloran shows up and tries to help them leave, but it's just they spend too much time with Jack to make it scary.
that results in because they're so focused on character development, family drama, and stuff. It probably would have been more expensive to do this, but they completely omit the labyrinth, which is one of the coolest things
Yeah, they did do
arguably horror history, let alone in the 1980s Shining.
Yeah, that's iconic.
That
I like what. Yeah,
Danny uses his footprints to trick Jack into getting lost in the labyrinth.
yeah, they do
It's
do
really cool.
the topiary monsters, which was pretty lame. It's like 90s CGI. But, yeah, we're almost there. What's the motivating factor that allows the protagonist to do what they want? And like you said, Danny gets the hedge maze, and Wendy gets the snowmobile and gets it to start eventually. And those are like the two main factors in running away to successfully running away. Danny, not really inadvertently, but indirectly freezing Jack in the hedge maze and blah blah. Yeah. And then in the movie, yeah, it was so silly. It was like Jack turns good and lets the protagonist escape, and then that fucking coal machine or whatever, he turns it the other way because he's a good person now and blows up the ghosts in the hotel.
It's a boiler.
Spoiler. That was, I mean, it was kind of satisfying because it gave you like that generic action ending, but it just didn't seem like it fit the genre of the TV movie to have like running up a hill and jumping while the thing explodes. Yeah.
It doesn't even explode at the end. It just kind of catches on fire. Well, there are some explosions, but
I thought honestly for a TV movie that was a pretty good effect shot of the.
like I said, they did a good job overall. The effects people.
Yeah, but I mean it was just it felt like that they, I mean, not to doubt Stephen King, but it felt like they didn't know how to end it, so they're like, well, everything should blow up. But yeah, Jack has becomes a good person again, which didn't make a ton of sense to me because he didn't have much reason to go crazy and try to kill Danny in the first place. And then he just sort of changes his mind because he sees Danny as a kid in peril, which he was already.
He's a good person, so we could fight back against the hotel somewhat. Ezra
Yeah.
drove Stephen King nuts that Jack Nicholson doesn't fight back really at all on the Kubrick one.
So, how is the protagonist's world different from the beginning to the end? Well, obviously, in the 1980 version, Jack is effectively dead.
He's dead, unless he can survive being frozen.
Yeah, and they have a comical shot with his face looking all concerned while there's like frost up, like frozen ice on his face.
I want to defend the shot because
I don't say it was bad. It was,
it captures his craziness forever. I think it's actually fitting.
and then how do you interpret the last shot of the movie, which is Jack Nicholson in the 20s ballroom picture?
It's open to interpretation, which, like I said, is a plus. I think Kubrick does in his films. I think it as he gets sucked into the hotel's uh ghost world thingy, uh, and so when someone else overlooks the hotel and gets haunted, I think Jack Nicholson might be one of the people haunting it or something. He's basically he's kind of trapped in hell forever in the ballroom. He's probably being somewhat tortured in there, even though he was getting tortured by something he liked.
Yeah, I will pose literal interpretation of what I read about Stanley Kubrick's beliefs that maybe just like someone who sort of looks like Jack Nicholson in the picture, or the universality of the themes or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, yeah, yeah. Probably not likely. I agree with you. It's probably a ghost thing, but whatever. Kubrick claims he doesn't like ghosts, so I don't know. And but in a more literal protagonist thing, it's left very open ended. Wendy and Danny are alive and free of Jack for once.
I
The
imagine like the miniseries they drive off successfully in their snowcat or whatever that thing they're
well,
in.
there is a famous deleted an old school deleted scene because it aired in theaters and Kubrick manually removed it because there's a scene where so Wendy and Danny go to a hospital because they're like frost exposed and injured and stuff, and uh, Mr. Ullman or whatever his name is shows up and he gives Danny the tennis ball that was rolling in the hallway, which sort of implies that Ullman's in on the whole ghost thing or something.
That would
Kubrick
have been
Kubrick hated
weird.
it after when he saw it, but yeah.
I could have liked it, I think, if I saw it, but I think it's better to end on Jack.
Yeah. And then it seems like this is the only reason that Stanley King, yeah, I wanted to mix carpet cleaner, whatever, yeah. Oh,
Stanley King makes carpets, Klinger. Oh,
thank
that's
you.
one.
Okay, yes. Because the mini series is we're gonna get this at some point. Dick Halloran was not comic. I keep saying comically. It's just funny to me in the 1980 movie how Dick Halloran dies because it's just Jack Nicholson off screen going ah, and he hits him in the chest with the axe. It's not a funny scene, but it's just kind of funny the way they set
Very
it.
jarring too, because there's actually a true lack of violence in the i if you think about it in the 1980 film. Um, so it's a huge axe too, right into his gut. So it's
Right. So it's kind of interesting because it's the TV version, but I guess it was probably from the novel. But Jack doesn't use an axe; he uses a mallet, which conveniently allows every character, yeah, pretty much every character to get injured, but not to the point of death or disabilitation. Wendy gets hit in the knee, and Dick Halloran gets hit in like I think the head.
she gets hit in the stomach too, but yes, she's not
So
she lives. So yes, but
all that was to say, for some reason, Dick Halloran lives. I mean, I'm happy for him, but
oh, I
it's
guess that two shots to the head like that, and he's an old man. I was like, okay, his skull probably got fractured. He's gone. And then she just
but
goes, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. And I'm like, oh, they're doing a thing where it's like trying to get someone to wake up in futile, and it adds to the horror. But he goes, yeah, where are you at? Or something. I don't know what he says. Something like that.
I mean, for a plot reason, there was not much reason for him to live other than they liked him. But I don't know. I don't know. But,
If someone, Danny slash Tony, I guess it's Danny, can share the shine with
right.
most
Yeah.
hotel.
So the end of the movie is Danny's high school graduation, and he's valedictorian of the high school, and Wendy's
No, they
there.
didn't say that. To be fair, they didn't say it. They said graduate with honors.
Game of honors. Okay, that's gonna change everything. Okay, but,
He's going to Duke, of all places, for
what a
school.
shame. Should have gone to UNC.
That's what Stuart Scott said. It. He couldn't go to college, so he went to Duke.
But anyway, they do a yeah. So Dick shows up after it doesn't matter, but so Dick and Wendy watch him graduate, and then I'm convinced the only reason this movie exists, this TV movie, is because Jack's ghost, who because he found peace in death, is no longer an alcoholic, is at the graduation, and he's like, "Good job, Doc," and Danny can see him. So thank God, Jack Torrance is redeemed. Everyone can relax.
Well, he's redeemed because he helped
I know, but
blow up the hotel so the ghost can't chase after Danny.
do you agree that it was not an improvement on the original movie to have Jack Torrance turn out to be normal in
No, I,
yeah, we're almost done with the head to
no, I'm
head.
just saying. Just again, back to Stephen King, and he loves family so much. I it's hard to get. I'm so frustrated, but just that his ability to somewhat escape the grasp of the ghost, and that his helping to blow up the boiler allows him to escape freely, although be dead in his human form. Uh, no, it did not add to it.
Yeah, so we get the full weird full circle ending where Danny is happy and unscarred by the events of the Overlook Hotel. So weird. Like that plot did not deserve that happy of an ending, but yeah.
And he becomes a superhero and kills villains with his shining.
I mean, it's pretty close to what Doctor Sleep is. I never seen it, or I'm never gonna watch that movie, but it's what it sounds like to me. Yeah. And then yeah, then the closing image. So in the original, we already said in the original movie, it's Jack Nicholson in the 20s or the flapper picture. And then the TV movie has a fucking MCU sequel bait sequence because they cut to the hotel. It's been rebuilt over a period of time because like it's 10 years after the rest of the TV movie.
Right, because he goes from 7 to graduating from high school. Yes.
And then there's a sign saying the Overlook reopening soon. So they even said in the movie, I think it was even Dick Halloran said to Danny, it's like the ghosts are going to come for you when you're older, you know. And then Danny's like, I know. They literally set up the sequel.
Jesus Christ, Dick, I've heard this enough.
I can't wait for the preview for Stephen King's The Shining 2. Oh no, not again. I'm getting too old for this ghost shit.
Have Tony, or I guess he's Danny.
Just
I'll call
Danny,
him
yeah.
Tony. Explain that the Shining's stronger because the hotel got rebuilt with more up-to-date architecture. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's got like high-tech laser beams,
It's
robots.
kaiju pops out of it. Go Gojira Shining.
Most modern buildings have your standard kaiju. So did the opening images match the closing images? The Shining, the 1981, it also open to interpretation. I stretching a little bit, but it's like it opens with these idyllic images of Colorado, and then it ends with Jack Nicholson stuck in the hotel forever. So there's these images of like eternalness, kind of. It's not integral to the movie, but just a thought. And then yeah, the TV movie was very blunt connection because it's like the opening scene is Pat Hingle explaining what the Overlook is, and the last image is the rebuilt Overlook. So it's like plot about the Overlook Hotel bookends the movie.
Yeah, it's if the Overlook starts terrorizing people again, it's more, and I think more horrifying, if nothing else, because they probably have a more modern boiler, or whatever to heat the place, so you can't use it as a tool to explode the hotel if you want to hurt the
Kind of
ghosts.
reminds, kind of reminds me of Return of the Jedi, where it's like Danny's got to like mess with the controlling station for the boiler first, and then the other crew is gonna go in and use the boiler. Lando Calrissian. Good times. All right, time for another trivia break about 1997 ABC. So a big hit on Tuesdays for ABC was Roseanne, which was created by what Cosby Show writer who is not a cantankerously bald Giants and Diamondbacks third baseman who was a dull failure as a baseball manager.
I think it's Matt Williams.
Name's the same, Matt Williams. Yes. And then Disney's Touchstone Television had an enduring hit on ABC at the time with Home Improvement. Unfortunately, Touchstone Television was also responsible for what lame Dan Aykroyd sitcom about a widowed Episcopal priest and his 3 kids, which only ran for 25 episodes.
God damn it. That's the name of the show.
I think you remember this one because we did watch it briefly as children, but Sam and Dave's song.
Soul Man?
Yes.
It's not the C. Thomas Howell movie.
No blackface, as far as I know. If only they'd use blackface. All right. Okay. Overall rating for the structure. I mean, Kubrick on paper, it's not super structurey, but it does a good job of using psychological imagery to replace plot while still showing plot. And the ending is a very tight slasher movie. And then, as we said, The TV movie has its strengths in terms of structure, but it's just filled with tons of generic talking scenes. And
I
then
don't
it,
need to go. I feel like I've hammered this to the race. Just
yeah,
less is more is more successful. Say it again, hopefully the final time in the 1980 version, and
I just
it
want to,
applies to the structure as well.
I just want to do a briefly say that the TV movie did an uneven job of managing its mega happy ending versus the scariness of the plot. Kind of negates the plot with the ending. But, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And then pacing, kind of similar. It's one of Kubrick's tightest movies, especially in the third act with the slasher stuff. And yeah, the pacing in the TV movie is really boring because it's dialogue.
I think the music helps with the pacing in the 80 version. It's a very well scored movie, excellent use of classical music, and the score is very generic, cheesy horror in the miniseries.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. I agree.
and like you say, well, for one thing, it's 4.5 hours long, so it's very long. The miniseries, which to be fair, miniseries are longer than films. This is known. This is a true story. But yeah, the dialogue, especially after watching it, maybe we're being unfair to the miniseries because if you're a big fan of the 1980 Kubrick and you watch the miniseries, I don't see how you could like the miniseries. But
Yeah. I mean, it's people who liked the book, which I'm not a big fan of. You liked the book, you should watch the movie to see the book again. But yeah, yeah,
yeah, pacing suffers because of the exposition dialogue.
yeah, yeah. And then not judgment, but labeling the tone. I think we talk about this a lot. The Shining has a mix of like spacey psychological isolation in a slasher movie, and then the TV movies it's more of a traditional drama. Put that you could put that on the WB or something. Very simple drama.
Yeah, I don't. We already talked about uh, kind of cheesy melodrama horror versus uh, isolation, guy going mad horror, which is much more successful in the 80 version.
Yeah, and then similar note. Talk about originality. I don't think there'll ever be a slasher film that was this psychological and open to interpretation. I mean, there are a lot of artsy horror movies, but this is like the pinnacle of tightly wound, but also artsy, fartsy. And the TV movie, the only originality I'll give it credit for is that it tried to mix like ghosts and psychological trauma with the drama, but it just got overwhelmed with the drama parts.
Yeah, I think it's hard to view in the with a 2025 or what, sorry, it's 2026. Jesus. 2026 lens that to view this is such a well-known movie and all the scenes are kind of so famous in it. It's hard to view things as original, but the Kubrick is just a much more original person than most directors, let alone a mainly TV guy and Mick Garris.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I did like a lot of Mick Garris's work that we talked about before. I mean, on a B movie level, that yeah,
it's I since we're on the subject of Mick Garris, I thought it was a well shot TV movie.
yeah. I think the script let it down because
Oh, definitely that, but
it was trying to hide the scary parts too much. But yeah, yeah,
Mick Garris didn't write it, so I'm just saying his job. I thought it was
yeah, it
shot well.
was fine. I wouldn't say it was amazing, but it was fine. Still a TV movie. And then marketability, tell people to watch it. There's really nothing not to recommend about the Shining original. It's Kubrick, Jack Nicholson, expertly made. And then the TV movie, if someone told you they love the book, I guess I would maybe lean towards that, but not really.
Yep, it would have to be a certain person that you know that loves Stephen King and hasn't. Yeah, but if someone said if you just someone said what, hey Marcus, what are the best horror movies? What horror movies should I watch? The Shining would probably be on that list. I don't know if it'd be number one. It's like Sophie's Choice situation. I don't know. I'd probably regret whatever I say.
Very subjective, but yeah, that's definitely yeah. Yeah, it's it a different mood. Like there's sillier ones like Evil Dead or but there's yeah.
Halloween might be the best slasher movie ever.
Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream. I mean, there's a lot, there's a lot of options, but yeah. Seeing a lot of Wes Craven ones.
The Thing might be the best creature horror movie.
Yeah, those are Psycho's a different, way different, but also good. Yeah, yeah. There's lots of options, and the TV movie version of a pre-existing one is not the one. All right, time for another trivia break. We're almost done. Wednesdays on ABC at the time, and all the way until 2004, was home to the Drew Carey Show. What alternative band performed the last and most famous theme song of the show, Cleveland Rocks?
Band that I've grown to like more as I've gotten older. Listening to more of their stuff. Presidents of the United States of America.
Yep. Lump is on my personal playlist. It's a great song. Townies is a funny name for a sitcom. Was the show funny? 10 aired Wednesday episodes about young adults that can't leave Gloucester, Mass. Leave that in doubt ease. The show starred what actress? An 80s teen film star who did briefly star on sitcoms such as The Facts of Life.
80s star, and then on Facts of Life. Oh, now I got it because
Very briefly on Facts of Life, so it's kind of a trick question,
right,
but
right. I figured that out before you said that. Just for the record, Molly Ringwald.
yes. So let's talk about some awards. The 1980 Shining, this is shocking to me, was not nominated for a BAFTA, a Golden Globe, or an Oscar. And I usually don't go into these type of awards, but the only award The Shining ever won was a Saturn Award for your favorite, the Scatman. Scatman.
You kidding me? Scatman? What was it for?
Supporting actor in a genre movie or whatever. Yeah. I don't know why Jack Nicholson didn't win a Saturn that year, but
Whatever. I'm better. Scatman.
I don't track the Saturns. I don't
Blow
know.
the Saturn Awards up because the Scatman Crothers is the only acting award that for The
Yeah,
Shining. Kidding me?
I guess I can pull it up. Because that had to be a nominee who was better than him. I don't like the Saturn Awards because it's all BS science fiction movies. So winners and nominees. Melvin Douglas in The Changeling, famous movie, never saw it. Martin Gable in The First Deadly Sin, not sure what that is. Max von Sydow and Flash Gordon, there you go. He could have won. And Billy D. Williams in Empire Strikes Back. You fools!
Did you
The
best
best
supporting actor
Star
or
Wars
best actor?
best supporting actor. Billy D. Williams in the best Star Wars movie. You fools. And then so because of this podcast, we know The Shining was nominated for Razzies. Stanley Kubrick was nominated for Worst Director and lost to Robert Greenwald for Xanadu. Aside from Stanley Kubrick possibly being abusive to his cast members and crew members, Stanley Kubrick should never be nominated for a Razzie. I mean, that's pretty obvious.
And apparently, there's Shelley Duvall actually liked working with Stanley Kubrick, so there's from some sources. So
Yeah, I mean, you could argue she's being nice, she's being protective of her career, blah blah blah. But I'm a little hesitant to disown Kubrick on the account of that stories about it. Shelley Duvall was nominated for Worst Actress, which is insane, also for similar reasons. Amazing actress, but when the Razzies retracted the nomination because of the Kubrick stories, they should have retracted because she's good in the movie, but whatever. Yeah.
should retract the Stanley Kubrick. Well, I guess I think he was abusive, or at least in 2022 when they did that.
Yeah, Razzies don't really care about the controversy. They probably like it. And then, as we mentioned before, briefly, Stephen King's The Shining was actually more successful in awards than Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. It was nominated for Best Miniseries and lost to something called Prime Suspect 5, which apparently is a British import about Helen Mirren as one of the first chief inspectors in the British police force.
Hmm.
It was the fifth season of that show. I don't know why it was nominated for an American Emmy, but and then
Right.
yes, it won both outstanding makeup and outstanding sound design for the last. Makeup was overall, sound design was the last episode of the miniseries, the third act. Stuff blew up good now. Okay, briefly, short sentence ish rate and score both movies. We're not gonna count Stanley Kubrick's The Shining in our ranking of 1980 Razzie movies because it would break the model, and the TV movie was bad, but it's not eligible. So anyway, quickly rate both movies. Go.
1980 Shining. Not much to be said. Borderline perfect horror movie. 10 out of 10. Uh, Stephen King's The Shining miniseries. Blah blah blah. Makeup is very good. Very Emmy worthy. I don't know about the sound editing. Whatever, didn't stand out, but whatever. Uh, I thought it was a well-made miniseries. If I'd watched that and I'd never seen The Shining before, I probably would still be annoyed by the exposition dialogue or whatever, but I would have liked it more because there's a decentness to it. It's not horrible, but
Yeah.
it seems horrible when you compare it to the 1980 movie. And with that kind of factored into the score, it's higher in quality than a 3.5. But I'm giving it that because Stephen King is kind of a D-bag in how he viewed the Kubrick film.
Yep. I agree with what you said. The Shining 1980 is the rare example of a brilliant, watchable horror movie that also is artistically immaculate with some, Bergman-esque clever visuals. So 10 out of 10, similar to you. And then TV movie was fine. Aside from not Scatman, I thought the acting was pretty competent. It it was just bogged down with the length and the dialogue, and like you say, it just felt like a waste of my time. Like I was indulging in Stephen King's self-congratulation. So I gave it a 5 out of 10 just because it's watchable. If you cut this down to 2 hours somehow, it'd be much better. But all right, last trivia break. Thursday on ABC in 1997 had the fairly generic law procedural Murder One, co-created by what famed creator of NYPD Blue, Hill Street Blues, and Cop Rock?
Uh, it wouldn't even that funny if I remember, but I mean, like the guy who likes one of your favorite you. God, fucking it's up big time. Anyways, Stephen Botch, go.
You talk too much. Homeboy, you never shut up. There you go. That's our Butchermania reference. So ABC in 1997 was still the prime of TGIF, featuring a bevy of long-running, well-remembered shows. And also Clueless. Cher's best friend Dion was played by what actress turned conservative talking head in the movie and the TV show?
Stacy Dash.
Dash. I was trying to do the flash thing that Chris Berman did
Well,
for
and then
yeah.
our from our youth, that stupid car insurance commercial. Dashers, 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 dashers.
Did you murder your wife? Dash, dash.
It's a car insurance commercial, I
Oh,
think, wasn't it?
I thought it was a Bail Bondsman. There's a lot of overlap there.
Oh, it's one of the bazillion to this. There's still a ton of them today. Car insurance companies.
Yeah. All right. Before we get out of here, time for you to guess what our next movie is.
Before you ask me the question, I guess I will just be grateful it's not a 4.5 hour miniseries.
Yeah, I don't know how long this movie is, but it's probably not 4.5 hours. Okay, your first clue. Uh, yeah. Anyway, it's directed by Michael Ritchie, written by Peter Benchley, and based on his own novel. Stars Michael Caine and David Warner, with a score by Ennio Morricone.
Oh, I referenced this before on the podcast, and I guessed this before when you told me Michael Caine was in Dressed to Kill before I knew it was Dressed to Kill. Is now it's time for Jaws the Revenge?
Oh no! Your final clue. John Donne famously claimed no man is blank.
So it's not Death Be Not Proud.
No.
No Man is an Island?
It's technically called The Island. It's
Well,
an,
that's what John Donne's poem says.
yeah, I know. But I guess it could have been a clue about The Island, but it would have just been another movie called The Island. But whatever. Another movie led by its worst director nomination, The Island, available for purchase or rent on Amazon Prime. Both cost money. And we'll talk about The Island next week on Twin Bill. Book me on your shows, or let's be best friends and hang out, maybe. I don't know.